All right, good morning, and today I'm going to break section 82 up into two sections. Okay, so in this whole section, we're going to talk about 45, 45, 90 triangles, and then I think next week I'm going to do the second section where I'm going to break this up to be 30, 60, 90. So today, all I'm going to talk about is 45, 45, 90 triangles. They're special right triangles, and we are going to take a close look at them, see a very easy pattern, and hopefully me breaking this up makes it a little bit easier for you. Okay, so we're going to get started in a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So I think I'm going to pause right there, and what I'm going to obviously state to you is this is an isosceles triangle. Okay, if you have a triangle that has two angles, all right, that are both congruent, that guarantees you that the legs must also be congruent. Okay, so they tell you it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. It's an isosceles right triangle is really what this is. Nevertheless, obviously both legs are congruent, okay, and the length of the hypotenuse, this is where it gets important, the length of the hypotenuse is radical 2 times the length of the leg. So, your abstract example here is if this side length is S, that means that side length is also S. The hypotenuse, which again is going to be opposite or across from your 90-degree angle, is going to be the length of the leg, which was S, times radical 2. Okay, so I'm going to actually do a couple of, I guess, off-script examples here to help you see what I'm saying. So down here where the proof is, we're going to not do the proof, okay? But let's just take a look at, let's draw ourselves a picture here. So let's say that I give you this triangle, and let's say that I tell you that one side length is 2. Okay, well, you know, if this is 90 and that's 45, that angle has to also be 45 degrees, so it is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So this leg is 2, which tells me that this other leg must also be 2. Okay, to find the hypotenuse, I just take whatever the leg was, or is, and multiply it by radical 2. So your answer would literally be 2 radical 2. Okay, let's change it up here. Let's say, let's just say it was 100. Then this leg is also 100, and the hypotenuse is 100 times radical 2. Let's do one more example. This is where it can get kind of tricky. Let's say that I give you the leg to be radical 2. Well, then you know the other leg is radical 2. And actually, while I'm going through this, I want to show you something. What I typically end up doing here after I've introduced the lesson in person is I end up showing kids, and I do this especially with the 3069 triangle, but we'll get into that next week. But I have them make a table. Okay, so the minute that you understand that this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, so let's actually go back and let's do an easier example here. Let's say one side length is 3. Okay, you recognize that this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, and then you make a table. You have X, X, and X radical 2. These X's are going to represent your legs. And you fill in the table whatever I've given you. So for example, if I gave you one leg, that's X. Well, that's also the length of the other leg. And then the hypotenuse is just take whatever the leg was and multiply it by radical 2. So to fill in your chart or fill in your picture here, that would be your case. Okay, so let's actually do another quick example. Let's just say that I made this, let's say I told you this was 7, and you make your table, you have X, X, X radical 2. One of the legs is 7, which means the other leg is 7, and the hypotenuse is going to be whatever the leg is times radical 2. Now, where I saw a lot of issues throughout the school year with the students is when you have to multiply radicals. This is, again, an Algebra 1 concept that I don't think you guys come out Algebra 1 too strong with. So in this example, if this leg was radical 2, then I go to my table, and I say if one leg is radical 2, then the other leg is radical 2. And this is where it gets hard, but it's easy. The hypotenuse is whatever the leg was, which was radical 2, and you multiply it by radical 2. Now, quick lesson on multiplying radicals. When you do this, you just simply multiply 2 times 2 to get the square root of 4. Okay, so when you multiply these two together, they go under one radical, and you perform the multiplication, and the square root of 4 is 2. So your answer to the hypotenuse here is simply just 2. Okay? So, those are our off-script examples, something that you're going to see here on your homework and on down the road in the notes here. So let's take a look at your first actual example. Very, very straightforward. You know for a fact that this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So go ahead and make your table. X, X, X radical 2. And I have given you a leg of 9. So you know your two legs or your two X values are 9. Well, what's the hypotenuse? Well, it's whatever the leg was. 9 times radical 2. And you are done. That is your value for H. Okay? You should pause, try it, and see what you get. This one is a little bit harder than the one we just did. But nevertheless, it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle, so make your table. Okay, so you have X, X, X radical 2. Well, I give you a leg as 2 radical 2. So don't assume, because this has a radical 2 in it, that it goes here. It's what is it of the triangle? Well, of the triangle, it is clearly a leg. X is the desired hypotenuse. That's what they're asking you to find. Okay, but if I know that one of these legs is 2 radical 2, then I also know this leg is 2 radical 2. Okay? Now, take whatever your leg was, which in this case the entire leg is 2 radical 2, and multiply it by radical 2. So this was your X, and I need to multiply that by radical 2. Well, okay, how do you do this? Well, just like we did in the example above. Radical, okay, so the 2 that's out in front is a constant. Just kind of leave it alone here for a minute. And let's do the radical 2 times radical 2. Okay? When you perform this, radical 2 times radical 2 is radical 2 times 2 is 4. And this 2 plops straight down. And everything's being multiplied together, so you can rearrange the order whatever, however you see fit. Okay, but square root of 4 is 2. And again, this 2 is going to drop straight down, and you have 2 times 2, which is 4, which is your answer for your hypotenuse. Okay, so again, this is all Algebra 1 stuff. All right, but this is where the mistakes are made in this section. This is why this section is hard. Okay, because the property of radicals is challenging for kids. So make sure you brush up on this, and make sure you email me if you have any questions on this. Okay? So, moving on. Alright, this is your worst case scenario, and I kind of saved this. I didn't do any examples of above because I don't want to intimidate you too much. But in this case, again, it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And in this case, we need to find a leg. I'm giving you the hypotenuse. So 6 is equal to x radical 2. So I need to solve this for x. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by radical 2. When I do that, these cancel. Okay, I'm solving for just x. So I have x equals 6 radical 2. Now, due to the circumstances that we are in, I will accept this for your answer, for your 2 legs. However, I am going to show you, just in case you can reference this, this is what you would be expected to do if we were still, brick and mortar, in person, and what you're going to have to do down the road in Algebra 2. Okay? You would have to do what we call rationalize the denominator. So, you cannot, when you get back to real life math here, you cannot leave a radical in your denominator. Okay, so to get rid of it, you got to multiply this by radical 2 over radical 2, because anything divided by itself, this is really just a big fat 1. Okay, So my objective here is I'm multiplying this by really a 1, but I'm going to get rid of this denominator of radical 2. So you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. 6 radical 2, and again, radical 2 times radical 2 is radical 4, and the square root of 4 is 2. And then you simplify your fraction. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and this would actually be your answer. But, like I said, because we are not in person, because you're doing this online, because this is hard enough as is, I will simply accept this to be your answer. So your final answer for online geometry is going to be 6 radical 2. And again, all I did was I went to my table that I told you to set up. And I said, all right, what was given to me? You were given the hypotenuse. Remember, these two are your legs. This is your hypotenuse. So fill in what you know. I was given the hypotenuse, so x radical 2 is equal to 6. I want to solve for x because these are solved for x. Well, I would have to divide both sides by radical 2. That clears that. And that leaves me with 6 radical 2, 6 over radical 2 for my answer. Okay? Keep in mind, on your answer keys, they are not going to show this because this is technically not the right answer, but for our given circumstances, this is going to be the right answer for any future tests and quizzes that you have coming up. Okay? So again, you have one more example down here. I lied, you have 2 more examples, but you should, this example reflects the one we just did together, so again, you should pause it, try it, and then check your answer. There's no picture, but it should be no problem. It says the length of the hypotenuse of a 45, 45, 90 triangle is 10. So draw yourself a little picture. That's 10. What is the leg of one of the or what is the length of one of the legs? Well, again, make your table. Okay, so you have x radical 2. They've given you the hypotenuse. That goes here. Simply solve for x. Divide both sides by radical 2. Those clear. And x is equal to 10 over radical 2. Okay? So if you have any questions on that, email me. Again, when you do your homework and you check your answers, these will not be the correct answers. I'll try and go through and flag the ones that you have to do this and give you our quote-unquote answer for it, okay? So, again, if it's not making sense, if you have questions, shoot me an email. I hope by me simplifying this, I'm not making it more confusing for you. Hopefully it's enough for you to get the nuts and bolts of geometry and be good. All right, last one. This one's pretty straightforward. A high school softball diamond is a square. The distance from base to base is 60 feet. So what they're telling you, you know it's a square, but therefore you know that all of these lengths are 60 to the nearest foot. How far, this is your home plate, how far does the catcher throw the ball from home plate down to second base? Okay. Well, we can ignore, this part of the picture. We're just looking at this triangle. That's your 45, 45, 90. So if you make your table, I've given you the leg as 60. Okay, this would be your right angle. This is D's clearly your hypotenuse. That's what you're looking for. So the exact answer is 60 radical 2 feet. But you wouldn't tell the catcher you need to throw it 60 radical 2 feet. The catcher would look at you like you have 13 heads, right? That doesn't make any sense. So all you got to do is take your calculator, type in 60, multiplication button, square root 2, and close parentheses. If your calculator requires you to use parentheses, hit the equal button, and you should get 84.85. Well, the question is saying to the nearest foot, because again, you're not going to tell the catcher you need to throw it 84.85 feet. Again, that doesn't make any sense to them. You need to tell the catcher he's going to throw it approximately 85 feet. Okay, so listen, on your homework, All right, I'm going to give you your 8-2 Form G and Form K. For this week, all we're going to worry about is any 45, 45, 90 triangle. So I will post online the numbers of the homework problems I want you to do. Okay, so if there's a question on your homework that is a 30, 60, 90 triangle, you can't do it because you don't know how to do it yet. All right, we will do 30, 60, 90 triangles next week, and then we'll start moving and looking into to quiz maybe here in 2 weeks of just 8-1 and 8-2. Okay, if you have any questions, drop me an email, snydere@nhsd.net. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.